Growing up, while everyone wanted to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, an architect, guess what I wanted to be? Who can guess what I wanted to be? Just randomly. No, I wanted to be a celebrity. Yeah. And I would watch the TV from morning till night, and I would tell my mom, when I grow up, I wanted to be like those people on TV, right? And at the time, my mother would think, oh, this girl is just not serious about her life, or it's probably just childish exuberance. And growing up, we had questions as girls like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And I always wondered, how about we leave girls the choice to choose whatever they want to be without restricting them to just one thing, one career, one profession. Imagine a world without boxes, where girls could be lawyers and entertainers, where architects, could also be actors. Imagine a world where doctors could be models. Imagine a world where there were no boxes and we were all just made to live the life that we desire. So I grew up in a traditional African home, right? Many of us here are siblings because most of us all had African parents. And I always thought African parents had a universal manual for parenting because it was always the same pattern. And I remember my mom saying to me, one day when I told her what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a celebrity. She said, when your mates are thinking of being lawyers and doctors, do you know what a celebrity means? And at the time, the word was not so popular. And so my mom would always just shrug it off, and like I said, she always thought it was childish exuberance. But I grew older and my resolve of becoming a celebrity, a public figure, grew even stronger. And I remember that when it was time for me to get into the university, my mom picked my JAMB form for me because she knew that if she had allowed me pick and fill my JAMB form, I was definitely going to fill theater arts as my course of study. And so she followed me, picked my JAMB form together, and when it was time to fill, she said, put in law. And I'm like, but I don't want to be a lawyer. This is not what I want. And she said, put in law, you will be a lawyer. And so I went to the University of Calabar and studied law. My first year was such a struggle because I was always wondering, I'm like, what am I even doing here? It felt like a very strange terrain for me. But I struggled, and while in school, while in the University of Calabar, I had to do everything that piqued my interest at the time because law was not it for me. And so I was a commercial model. I sold clothes at one time. I worked in a popular supermarket at another time. I did a lot of things just to find myself, just to find me, just to find Mina. And at some point, it was like I was confused. Most of us wake up and know that we want to be doctors, we want to be lawyers, we want to be engineers. For me, I just wanted to be a celebrity. I didn't even know what industry or what area I wanted to be a celeb in, but all I knew was I wanted to be out there, I wanted my face to be out there. And so I did everything that piqued my interest. And after I was done with my law degree, I remember saying to myself, so Mina, what next? What's next for you? It was like I was thrown into this deep ocean and with no life jacket, and I was just left to swim on my own. And it was then it occurred to me that, you can actually do something with what you have. I love creative writing, I love communicating, I love media, anything creative just interests me a lot. And at that point, I decided to do something that nobody else was doing at the time. I decided to found an entire industry within the legal sector. And I founded the legal PR industry. So what I was doing was basically, bridging the information gap within the legal industry. And while I was doing that for years, it didn't make any sense to me because it was like, you were just here doing PR at the time for someone who was a lawyer was non-profitable, right? So I was the only one in that industry. It was strange for me. You know, I didn't have mentors. I didn't know who to look up to. So I was basically alone in that path that I had chosen. And I remember that, you know, one of the days, a friend of mine asked me, so what do you want to do with this your PR thing? What are you really doing with it? Where is it going to? What is the headway with this thing? And to be honest with you, I didn't have an answer. You know, I just thought, let's see how it goes. And 2-3 years in, I remember getting a call one day from the then president of the Nigerian Bar Association that, you know, someone had pitched what I do to him, and he wanted me to be on his campaign team. And that was a defining moment for me in my career. And you would think that I would be excited and I would want to stick to this path. But years later, I felt like, what is PR in law? What are you even doing here? You know, and I wanted to switch career paths. And so I got into the construction industry. I started working with the construction industry, you know, and at some point I also left because I felt that was not for me. So I was testing the waters, trying to figure out, you know, different things, trying to know who this person is, what I was made to do. And like I said, it was such a struggle. And one thing that changed my life, I think it was a defining moment for me, was when I listened to a very powerful TED talk by Chimamanda, The Danger of a Single Story. And it just taught me to craft my own story. It just taught me that, Mina, you know what, you can be a lawyer, you can be an engineer, you can be a media girl, you can be all you want to be. So life is not a straight path, right? You can choose different things. And I grew up in a cosmopolitan city, you know, a small town in Nigeria where you had to do more with less, right? And because you had to do more with less, it's not like living in Lagos or Abuja or one of these bubbling cities. It's a city where I would say there was no life at the time. And so I was trying to find my feet in this city. I was trying to do so many things, you know, and it just did not make sense that I was here. And at this point, I decided that it was time to spread my tentacles. It was time to break out. You know, it was time to go out to the world. And so I started traveling, you know, connecting with people, attending events, going to spaces and places where I could find my type of people, right? People who, you know, haven't figured out life yet, but, you know, knew where they were going, or somehow, you know, would find their feet along the way. And so my journey has not been a very straight one. It has been, you know, it has been interesting, right? Trying different things, being in different industries, you know, doing different things as Mina. And I got uncomfortable at some point and just wanted to break free from what I knew, you know, everything I was used to. And that breaking free led me to, you know, start another company, another organization where I was consulting, and I've done many things. I've done like 10 to 20 things in this life, right? And the truth is, you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to, you know, while most people can wake up and say, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to still be in that, at that point, or in that stage of your life where you're still trying to find out who you are, when you're still trying to discover your purpose. And it's a very painful journey, because sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel like, what am I even doing, right? But I always use the illustration of a butterfly. Before a butterfly develops wings, what happens is that it breaks out of its cocoon. And that is it's a painful process. So in discovering purpose, there has to be pain. There were times when I would go for events, and I would tell someone this is what I do, and they would look at me and they're like, my labor did not have dignity at the time. Who are you? I'm a PR in law professional, and they're like, what is that? What is that? And that is one of the downsides of pioneering an entire industry. How about I tell you that it is possible to live the life that you desire? How about I tell you it is possible to craft your own story? I am Mina. I'm not trying to be like Bet. I'm not trying to be like anyone in this room. I am Mina. That is my story. What stands me out, what makes you the golden fish in the room, is the fact that you're doing something nobody else is doing. So get out of your comfort zone. I wanted to do a short illustration, right, this morning. So we have two items here. We have a full pie, and this is half bread, right? So if I gave you the full pie and half bread, if I gave you these options, which would you choose? Which would you choose? The full pie. So why do we settle for half bread when we can have the full pie? Why do we go for what is not ours, what is not your own, when you can have the full pie? You don't have to settle just to make people comfortable, just to please people. I studied law to please my African parents, but now my mom looks at me and she's glad that I took the path that I took later on in life. So I'm here to say you can be everything and more. I know most of us are confused because you feel you're different from everyone else. I was having a conversation with a young person recently, and he told me, he's a lawyer as well, and he said, Mina, I am trying to find myself in this profession because this doesn't feel like me. Every day I wake up and I am unhappy going to work because this is not my zone. And I told him, how about you take a risk and fully come into who you are, grow into. It is not going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be a work in the back, right? Many people wake up and realize that, I will be a doctor tomorrow, I'll be a lawyer today, But for some of us who were specially crafted, right? You need to come to the knowledge of who you are and work in the knowledge of who you are. And trust me, the world is not looking for people who are doing the basic things. The world is not looking for people who are, you're just an engineer. There's nothing more to you. You're just an architect. There's nothing more to you. The world is looking for people who have a unique value proposition. And so it's okay to fail. It's okay to see life as an experiment ground where you have to try everything you need to before you can find yourself. And I hope that after now, we will get out of our heads. We will let go of those stereotypes. We would be the goldfish in the deep sea. And we would choose our full pie, because full pie is always the best. And so I want to leave you with this. Get out of your head and get into your natural habitat. Thank you.